Alright, so lesson 3.7, we are going to deal with multiplication of fractions and mixed numbers. The nice thing about multiplying and dividing fractions, which we'll get to in the next unit, you do not need common denominators. That's the best part about it. Okay, multiplication of fractions for most people tends to be the simplest or simpler than adding and subtracting. Adding and subtracting, we got to have the common denominators. Multiplication and division, we do not. So that's the first thing. And you can write that down if you want to. I didn't make a note of it here, but if you want to write it down, we do not need common denominators. Put it in your notes. That's great. You have a couple options when multiplying fractions. Okay, first, you can multiply across and then simplify. Or you can pull out or reduce out sometimes the common factors and then multiply across. If you do the second version here, that saves you from reducing in the end or simplifying in the end. If you do the first version, then you probably have to reduce in the end. Okay, but you sort of have your choice. Now, first of all, though, if we're going to go whole number times fraction, we probably want to make the whole number, in this case, I guess the whole number, the integer, into a fraction, which the nice part about that is all we have to do is take the integer and put it over 1 to make it into a fraction. Because if you really think about it, how is that the case? Well, if you think of a fraction is a division problem. Okay, negative 15 divided by 1 is negative 15. So the formats are the same. I mean, even though they're in different formats, their values are the same. So because I am using or multiplying by a fraction, I want the fractional format to help me out. So now here are your choices again, and I will show you both, at least to begin here. You could multiply across, and when I say multiply across, numerator times numerator, which in this case would be negative 30. Denominator times denominator, which would be 3, and then reduce or simplify if you can. Well, both of these divide by 3, so this will be a negative 10 over 1 if I divide them both by 3, which is negative 10. So that is your first choice. Your second choice, same thing though, it's still negative 15 firsts. I still want that fraction, times 2/3. If I have common factors that will reduce out, and a lot of times people focus on cross reductions, which in this case you do have a cross reduction, or you could simplify the fraction itself if it exists, which in this particular case we don't have any fractions that will reduce upon themselves. But so 3 goes into itself once and goes into 15 5 times. So I'm pulling out 3 out of each of those numbers. Alright, now I multiply across. 5 times 2 is 10. Now negative times a positive is negative. 1 times 1 is 1. And you'll notice negative 10 is your result. So either way, I got to the same outcome. Alright. I prefer to reduce and cross-reduce if I can. That's just my preference. I know that 4 goes into both of those. You could have divided them both by 2, but then you'd have to do it again. But 4 is the biggest thing that goes into 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 1 is 5, so 1/5. But if you wanted to, 1/4 times 4/5. If I multiply across first, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. What reduces both 4 and 20? Well, that is 4. 4 into itself once, and it goes into 20 5 times. And either way, I get to 1/5. But if you do, either way, you need to reduce the lowest terms when you're all said and done. Okay? All right. 12/4 times 3/2. The other option here, if you don't want to worry about this negative until the end, I know a positive times a negative is a negative. So at the end, I know my answer is negative. So again, you have your options. Do I have any cross reductions? And here's you have choices. Could I cross reduce? Sure, I could. That is a choice. I could do 2 and 12 because 2 goes into itself once. It goes into 12 6 times. Or I could reduce this fraction if I want to. 4 goes into itself once. 4 goes into 12 3 times. Okay. So now I have no further cross reductions. I can't reduce the fractions themselves at this point. 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 2 is 2. Positive times negative is negative. So 9 halves. If I needed a mixed number, 2 goes into 9 4 times, which is 8. 9 minus 8 is 1. So 1 half is my 1 half, and it is a negative. But as I said, you had your other options as well. So I'm going to erase this. I'm going to do it in a different way. I will do it in blue. Okay, I will cross reduce in this case. 1 and 6 when I divide both of those by 2. Which would then I could reduce a little bit more because 4 divides by 2 twice. 6 divides by 2 3 times. And you'll notice here I am again. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 1 is 2. I'm right back to where I started. Or, for those of you who prefer to multiply across first, I will do so, and I'll put my solution down here. 12 times 3 is 36. Okay, 4 times 2 is 8. Fantastic. A positive times a negative is negative. All right, but if I then start to, I'll reduce my fractions. 8 and 36 both divide by 2, so that leaves me 4 and 18. But those also divide by 2, leaving me 9 and 2, and you'll notice I'm once again back to where I was. Again, this is negative stuff, and this could be changed to a negative 4.5. So again, it just depends on how you want to, what you're most comfortable with when you're doing your problem, and realizing that as you're going along, it may be easier in some cases to cross-reduce first and then multiply out, or it might be easiest to multiply out and then reduce and so on, and some of that comes with practice and time. Now, if I'm going to go a fraction times a mixed number, my mixed number I am going to go into a fractional format. I want it to be an improper fraction to do this. So I'm going to go 8/5 times 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 3 is 11, so this is 11/4. And here I am once again back, fraction times fraction with my choices. I can go 88, 8 times 11 is 88 over 20, and then reduce. Or, again, I prefer to reduce values ahead of time if I can, so 8 and 4 both divide by 4, leaving me 2 here and 1 here. So that is 22 when I multiply my numerators, and 5 when I do my denominator, and this is reduced as far as there's nothing that will divide both 22 and 5. And if I needed a mixed number, 5 goes into 22 4 whole times, which leaves me 2, because 22 minus 20 is 2/5. So those would be my improper fraction and my mixed number solutions in that particular case. And then E and F, do I have any? I don't have, in this case, I don't have any reductions. So 3 times 1 is 3, and 4 times 2 is 8. Again, 3/4 won't reduce, 1/2 won't reduce, 1 and 4 won't, 3 and 2 won't. Positive times negative is negative, and there, negative 3/8. And in this particular case here, I want to go probably a fraction. My whole number needs to be a fraction, so 8 over 1. And my mixed number needs to be a fraction, so, multiply and then add. So 8 plus 3 is 11. And I get back into my choices, 88 over 4, and then reduce, if you want to. Or I would, if it's me, I like to cross-reduce, or reduce or cross-reduce ahead if I can. So 22 over 1, which 22 divided by 1 is just 22. Okay, and that does it, multiplication of fractions. And again, make sure you reduce and so on. All right, come see me for help if you need it.